how many of these seats will be filled come fall. Schools and their students uncertain of the future as administrators try to determine what's safe. In California, the university systems announced it's unlikely there will be any in-person classes through the fall semester.
Students are facing some of the highest levels of uncertainty that maybe has ever happened in this nation. And it's super uncertain what the future is going to look like. Students don't know whether to sign their leases in the fall. They don't know what their employment is going to look like. You know, those employment numbers that we're hearing across the nation also include students.
The schools debate intensified when Dr. Anthony Fauci, during a Senate hearing Tuesday, cautioned,
"We don't know everything about this virus, and we really better be very careful, particularly when it comes to children. I think we better be careful if we are not cavalier in thinking that children are completely immune."
All roads back to work and back to school run through testing. And that what our country has done so far on testing is impressive, but not nearly enough.
Facing a longer stretch of stay-at-home orders, cities like Washington, D.C. are amending what's considered essential, letting stores that can help students learn out of the classroom reopen.
We will grant waivers to locally owned stores in the city that sell educational items such as books for curbside and front door pickup.
Concerns about another crisis hitting the U.S. It involves depression, substance abuse, and suicide. The CDC says the suicide rate is up 35% between 1999 and 2018, meaning almost 800,000 people die of suicide each year. That's more than the entire population of Alaska. CBS 2's Sarah Jacobson has more on the sobering reality right here in our community.
Idaho has some of the highest suicide rates in the entire United States. That's according to the Idaho Department of Health and Welfare.
We've already been fighting an epidemic, mental health, in the middle now of a pandemic, coronavirus, COVID. We are 50th in the nation for mental health in Idaho, which means that we are grossly underfunded. The system is very fragmented, and it's challenging for people to have access to services. So our job was already hard.
Marissa Nickel is a licensed social worker and an adjunct professor for the School of Social Work at Boise State University. She says on top of a caseload of 90 people, she's doing all she can to help her clients through this uncertain time, and our community is hurting.
We are seeing an absolute skyrocket in incidents of depression, isolation, fear, anxiousness, hopelessness. We've seen increase in suicidal ideation, successful suicide completion. The relapse rates are insanely high, particularly here in Idaho.
Meanwhile, Idaho's unemployment insurance claims climbed above 125,000 just yesterday.
Job loss is a factor. The isolation piece is a factor. One of the things that clients weren't aware of until we went into the shelter in place was how much socialization they were receiving just by being at work, right? So that impacts people in terms of depression. You know, people are feeling alienated, isolated. Also, if you're unemployed, then you lose your health insurance benefits, which then impacts your ability to continue to seek support services, which is another tough position that we're in as providers, because as a social worker, I'm not going to drop someone just because they lose their benefits, especially in a time of crisis.
The Idaho Suicide Hotline has also seen an increase in calls pertaining to coronavirus and mental health crisis.
About 30% of our calls are focused on COVID or COVID-related issues or stressors now. The National Disaster Distress Line has seen like a 300+% increase.
A signal that Americans are hurting. But there are ways to help, even under the stay-at-home order.
That you're not alone. Want to provide hope and human connection to all of our callers, no matter what situation they're in or, what kind of crisis they might be having, whether it's financial or food insecurity, emotional stuff.
While the Idaho Suicide Prevention Hotline is available 24/7, 365 days a year, they say they hope to have more volunteers once people head back to work. But that could also be another obstacle for Idahoans and our mental health services.
my concern moving forward with people going back to work is that we have to look at some type of hybrid model potentially in terms of slower reintegration that includes the components and pieces of mental health. We have to address that because everybody is feeling something about what's happening right now, whether or not they want to talk about it. So in some ways, we're normalizing mental health on a global scale and we don't even realize it because everybody has a feeling about this. So I do see that as a silver lining. What I'd like to see is more funding going towards mental health.
More numbers and a grim forecast from the Treasury Secretary, Steve Mnuchin. He says unemployment in America will get worse before it gets better. And in fact, Goldman Sachs today is predicting the rate could peak at 25%. That is not encouraging for those already out of work. CBS 2's Scott Logan is sharing the stories of the jobless in Idaho.
Shelley Martin of Garden City doesn't qualify for state unemployment benefits because she's self-employed.
When you're self-employed, you still file taxes, you still pay, federal and state taxes, but you don't pay unemployment taxes, so you're not qualified.
At least she was self-employed until work dried up in March. Now she's eligible for benefits under the Pandemic Unemployment Assistance Program recently passed by Congress, or so she thought.
I filed a claim on March 26th. I was denied within an hour.
She filed an appeal with the Labor Department and pointed out self-employed are covered under the federal relief program. But her problem is a familiar one. State unemployment agencies were tasked by Congress with distributing those federal dollars, and Shelley Martin can't get through to the Idaho Department of Labor to find out about her appeal.
I'm not so bad. I have friends and family that won't let me starve, and I don't have a house payment or car payment, so that helps me quite a bit. But I am worried sick about other people who aren't so fortunate.
Del Barris of Kuna was furloughed about 5 weeks ago. He worked as a school security officer at Kuna Middle School and was furloughed along with about 120 other school district employees, he says. But he hasn't heard anything from the Labor Department about his claim.
No one to date has been contacted from the school district that I know of. We're kind of falling through the cracks. If we knew what our status was, we would know how to proceed from here.
And his question is one that's on the minds of all Americans right now. What happens next?
Tonight, police are warning people to be on the lookout for a mail scam that's making its way through Boise. CBS 2's Trevor Fay spoke with the Boise Police Department and joins us with what you need to know to stay safe.
Officers with the Boise Police Department Community Outreach Division say that thousands of dollars in stolen items are being shipped through Boise by unsuspecting residents. Here's what some of those items look like. People I spoke with at a Boise post office can't believe scams like this are going around in a time of global crisis. And Edward Fritz of the Boise PD is helping those people fight back.
We work with the community as, through the education piece like that. We work through our detectives to track down these cases. Probably the best thing to do is just avoiding the situation to start with.
These scams target people who visit job sites, dating sites, and chat rooms. They're often disguised as fake sweethearts who need your help, or charities asking you to donate to their cause in Europe or Africa. But it's just a way to get people to unknowingly smuggle stolen products. United States postal inspectors began monitoring packages headed towards a Boise address. The USPS intercepted nearly 50 packages headed towards that address that were valued at nearly $10,000. Community Outreach Division officers visited the Boise address and seized an additional $7,000 in stolen merchandise. Police say residents there were scammed into reshipping the stolen items.
We see a lot of different reports of scams. We see a lot of reports of people that have been victimized, and people just want to report the information to us, from situations like this to overpayment scams to usual phone calls people will get from the IRS.
Complex scams like these are a big problem for the post office and law enforcement, especially once they start to spread. That's why it's important to stop them as soon as possible. As a way to help combat this scam, officers are warning the public to be cautious of any work-from-home offers that involve shipping. In Boise, Trevor Fay, CBS 2 News.